My stepkid laughed and said, "We don't owe you any respect. You're just mom's boyfriend." So I canceled their spring break flights, changed the Wi-Fi password, and texted their bio dad, "Your sons are waiting." He left me on read and left them on scene. They say love is patient. For 4 years, I swallowed silence like communion. My name's Greg. I'm 45. I live in Nashville. And for the better part of my adult life, I've been trying to build something that looks like a family. Not for lack of effort, but because mine never quite held. Lauren and I met waiting for tires. One of those dull, forgettable errands that accidentally change everything. We weren't married, but we lived like we were. Shared house, shared bills, shared calendars filled with teenage appointments and grocery runs. I had a daughter from my previous marriage, Ava. She's 11 now, quiet like me. Lauren had 2 sons, Zach, 17, and Ryan, 15. Their biological father, Eric, drifted in and out like a seasonal illness. Birthday calls if you were lucky, Christmas presents if you weren't. At first, it was easy to believe we could blend. I played the long game. I paid for game tickets and gym memberships, made barbecue on Sundays, learned how to make Ryan's weird vegan wraps when he went through his activist phase. I drove them to soccer, bought their sneakers, upgraded the Wi-Fi so Zach wouldn't lag during his matches. I told myself, show up, stay consistent, and eventually, they'll meet you halfway. But I was wrong. They met me with silence. Zach rolled his eyes when I spoke. Ryan acted like I wasn't there unless I had money in my hand or a ride to offer. They spoke over me, around me, never to me. I became the furniture that paid for everything, visible, immobile, unthanked. At the dinner table, they thanked Lauren for meals I cooked. On birthdays, they hugged her and texted their father, but barely looked at me. When I bought Zach a gaming chair last Christmas, he didn't even unbox it in front of me. Just dragged it to his room like a delivery driver had dropped it off. I stayed patient. I swallowed it. I chalked it up to teenage attitude. I figured boys test limits, eventually they'd grow out of it. Lauren didn't help. She called it a phase. She'd laugh when Zach made jokes at my expense, or she'd shrug when Ryan ignored me. "Don't take it personally," she'd say. "They're just used to their dad doing things differently." But he didn't do anything. I did. I was there every day. Still, I kept going. Picked up after them. Paid for everything. Tried to talk, even when I knew it would be ignored. And slowly, quietly, it started to hurt. A different kind of hurt. Not loud, not sharp, but constant. It bled into the way I walked through my house. The way I tiptoed around their moods. The way I hesitated before asking for help, knowing I'd be ignored. I became background noise in my own home. I'd fix the gutters and unclog the drains. I'd refill the fridge before they noticed it was empty. I paid for their Spotify, Netflix, DoorDash. I kept the engine of that house running like I was hired help. One night, Lauren and I were watching a show. One of the few times we had the house to ourselves, and she said something that stuck with me. It wasn't meant cruelly, but it sliced clean. "They don't mean to be disrespectful. They just don't know where you fit." That was it. For years. Thousands of dollars. Countless hours. And still I didn't fit. Not as a father. Not even as an adult in authority. I was a shadow who paid the bills. Still I stayed. I hoped. I tried. You always tell yourself, one more month. One more gesture. One more thing to prove you belong. And then came the sentence that broke everything. It was a Wednesday. Midweek. Nothing special. I had just gotten home from work. Still in boots. Hands dirty from a job I hated but stuck with because it paid enough to keep the house upright. I stepped into the living room and saw the trash. Overfilled. Stinking. Torn at the sides. I asked them to clean it. Simple request. Zach leaned back on the couch. Didn't even glance up from his phone. He looked at me like I was some clerk in a store. Then he smirked and said, "We don't owe you anything. You're just mom's boyfriend." 9 words, spoken like fact, delivered without hesitation. The kind of sentence that doesn't raise its voice because it doesn't need to, it already knows it's true. Ryan laughed from the kitchen. A low, knowing laugh. Like this had been said before, just not in front of me. I stood there holding a trash bag, listening to the sound of my own authority disintegrating. They didn't just disrespect me. They dismissed me, erased me, reduced me to furniture. And the worst part? I knew they were right. Not morally, not in terms of fairness, but in terms of consequence. They could say what they wanted, act how they pleased, because nothing would happen. They wore the sneakers I paid for, used the internet I paid for, slept under the roof I maintained, and yet they believed deeply that I was irrelevant. Because Lauren had let them. She'd never corrected them, never drawn a line, never said, "That's your stepfather. Treat him with respect." She stayed quiet in the moments that required courage. And that silence over time became permission. So I stood there, watching Zach go back to his phone, watching Ryan turn the corner with a smirk still on his lips, and something inside me turned off. Not anger, not rage, not even sadness, just a switch, like a light finally flicked out after burning too long. I dropped the bag in the bin, closed the lid, washed my hands, and that night, in bed, while Lauren scrolled through her phone beside me like nothing had happened, I stared at the ceiling and made my decision. Not a loud one, not a fight, just this. If I was nothing to them, then starting tomorrow, I'd act like nothing. Because sometimes, the only way to teach someone the value of a roof is to let them feel the rain. The next morning, I didn't say a word. I made coffee like usual, folded Ava's lunch napkin into a little triangle, something I used to do when she was in preschool. She smiled at me as she came into the kitchen. I kissed the top of her head. She knew something had changed. Children always do. Not because I looked different, but because I'd stopped pretending. Lauren came down a few minutes later, yawning, hair wet from the shower. She asked if I'd seen her phone charger. I pointed toward the couch, not speaking. She gave me a sideways glance, but said nothing more. Then the boys came down. Ryan first. Hoodie up, backpack half-zipped, shoes dragging like his feet were allergic to the floor. Then Zach, smelling like overpriced cologne and ego. He walked straight past me, grabbed a protein bar from the pantry I stocked, then sat at the counter scrolling on his phone. No good morning, no nod, no acknowledgement. Lauren handed Ryan a $5 bill. In case you want something extra at lunch. He took it and left without a word. I watched the door shut behind him like a period at the end of a disrespectful sentence. Zach was still sitting there, phone in hand. I turned toward him, calm, measured. Take the trash out today. He didn't look up. I've got practice after school. I waited. He smirked. You can ask Mom. Then he stood, grabbed his backpack, and walked out. I heard his car start, bass pounding, tires screeching. Gone. Lauren looked at me from across the kitchen. They're just being teenagers, she said softly, tired, like she'd already rehearsed this line 100 times. I didn't answer. I just went upstairs, opened my laptop, and started the first phase of extraction. The Florida trip was the first to go. I had booked it 3 months ago, all 5 of us, including Ava. A beach house on the Gulf. I even paid extra for the upgraded rental with a heated pool and an arcade room I thought the boys would love. It was supposed to be the bonding moment. The glue. The thing that made us click. Now it was just another invoice. I canceled the reservations. Called the rental company. Explained there'd been a family change. Ate the cancellation fee. Next, the accounts. I logged into the Wi-Fi portal and changed the password. Simple. A few clicks. I changed the network name too. Something blunt. Something I wanted them to see. Respect underscore comes first. Then I opened my subscriptions. Netflix gone. HBO gone. PlayStation Plus, Spotify Premium, the Spotify Family Plan, the iCloud storage I was paying for under Ryan's name, all gone. Then I logged into Amazon and turned off one-click ordering. No more packages showing up unannounced with my name on the receipt and their indifference taped to the box. The house was quieter than usual. Lauren was in the shower. Ava was reading in her room. For the first time, I felt a strange stillness. Not peace. Not yet. But something close. A silence with intent. The last thing I did was open my phone and text their biological father. Eric, your sons are waiting. Time to be a parent. It delivered. It was read. He didn't respond. Just like always. By the time Lauren got home that night, the temperature in the house had shifted. Ryan was in the living room, pacing, yelling about his Wi-Fi not working. Zach was slamming cabinet doors, holding his phone like it was broken. Lauren walked in, heels still on, work bag sliding off her shoulder. "What's going on?" she asked, setting her keys down. Zach spun toward her. "The internet's down, and Netflix is not working." She looked at me. "Is it out citywide?" I shook my head. "No, just here." She blinked. "What do you mean?" I turned to face her fully. My voice didn't rise. My words were simple. I canceled the Florida trip, shut off the subscriptions, changed the Wi-Fi. Zach stepped forward. "You did what?" I looked at him. "You said I was just your mom's boyfriend, that you didn't owe me anything. So now I'm acting like I don't owe you anything either." Ryan opened his mouth, then closed it. Lauren looked stunned. She set her bag down slowly. "Greg, come on. It was just a stupid comment. Teenagers say stuff. You don't cancel a family trip over that." I stepped closer. "They don't respect me. They've made that clear. And you've let them. I won't keep rewarding that." She looked hurt. Not confused, hurt, but also unsure how to argue. "You really think this is the way to handle it?" I nodded. "It's the only way left." She sat at the table, quiet, staring at her hands. Like maybe if she looked long enough, the answers would appear in her palms. I walked into the hallway, opened the closet, pulled out the boys' suitcases, started packing. Their things, their gear, their essentials. Not angrily, not frantically, just, finally. Lauren appeared in the doorway. "What are you doing?" "Sending them to their fathers. At least for a while." She stepped closer. "Greg, he won't take them." "He's their parent," I said. "By blood. By name. Let him step in for once." She looked like she wanted to scream, or cry, or both. But she didn't say anything. She just watched. When I zipped up the last suitcase, Ava appeared at the top of the stairs. She looked down at me, her small face serious. "Are they leaving?" I nodded. She didn't smile, but her shoulders dropped, like something heavy had been lifted off of her. "Good," she said, then turned and went back into her room. That night, no one spoke during dinner. Lauren sat across from me, hollow-eyed. The boys stared at their cold plates. Ryan's fork scraped the ceramic but didn't lift. I chewed slowly, thought about all the meals I had made, all the silent dinners, all the times I had tried to force a family into shape. Now I was done forcing. After dinner, I went out to the truck and loaded their bags into the bed. The air was heavy with June humidity, thick and still. Zach stood on the porch, arms crossed. "You think this makes you a man?" he said. I looked up at him. "No," I said, "but it makes me less of a fool." Ryan mumbled something, but I couldn't hear it. Didn't care to. Lauren watched from the door, arms folded tight across her chest, like she was trying to keep her ribs from cracking. That night I didn't sleep. I just lay there, listening to the sound of the house breathing differently. Something had shifted, not just in them, in me. For the first time in 4 years, I had done more than make noise. I had made a decision. The next morning came like a slow confession. I was up before the sun, loading the truck while the house stayed quiet. Ava sat in the passenger seat, knees pulled to her chest, still in her pajamas. She didn't ask questions, just watched. That girl has always seen too much, understood more than anyone gave her credit for. I didn't shield her. I didn't lie. When she asked if Zach and Ryan were really going to their dad's, I nodded. She nodded back, and that was it. I texted Lauren before I left. "Taking the boys to Eric's. I'll be back by noon." No reply. The boys didn't pack. I did it for them. Tossed in their essentials, their school stuff, a couple of hoodies they always wore. No ceremony. No goodbye cards. Just the contents of a life half lived under my roof. Zach and Ryan came out with their heads low. No shouting. No resistance. Just silence, sour and thin. I handed them each a bag. Zach didn't take his eyes off the ground. "You were always just a stranger," he muttered. I didn't flinch. Didn't look at him. And yet, I was the only one who ever tried to be someone. The drive was silent. 10 miles out to the edge of town. Eric's address was a rented duplex, chipped paint, chain-link fence, satellite dish half-detached. I'd looked it up weeks ago out of curiosity. Never thought I'd actually go there. No car in the driveway. I rang the bell. Waited. Rang again. Nothing. Zach stood behind me, arms crossed. Ryan kicked at the gravel. The morning sun was rising, but no one came to the door. I left the bags on the porch. Texted Eric again. "Your turn to show up. For once." The message was read. He didn't reply. I stood there for another minute. The boys didn't say a word. And then I turned, walked back to the truck, and drove away. I didn't look in the rearview mirror. Back home, Lauren was waiting. Her arms folded. Hair up. Eyes tired. "You left them there?" "I left their things," I said. "He can come get them." "You don't know if he's even home." "Not my concern." She stepped toward me, voice low. "You can't just abandon them." "They abandoned me first," I said. "You just let it happen." She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Her jaw clenched like she was biting back years. The rest of the day passed like static. Ava did homework at the kitchen table. Lauren moved through the house like a ghost. I sat on the back porch, staring at the empty backyard, the grill I used to fire up every weekend like it meant something. By sunset, my phone buzzed. "Lauren." One word. "Zach." I opened the message. "He wants to come back." A second message followed. Ryan texted Ava. Apologized. Says he misses home. Home. That word. The nerve of it. After years of treating this place like a hotel with free room service and no rules, now it was home. I didn't reply right away. I sat with it. Then I texted back. "They can come back on my terms." The next morning, Zach and Ryan stood at the threshold of the house. No bags. No smug looks. Just two boys with posture like broken folding chairs. I opened the door. Ava was in the hallway behind me, arms crossed. She didn't speak, just watched. Zach cleared his throat. "Can we talk?" I nodded once, stepped aside. They stepped in. Lauren stood by the stairs, watching everything. I didn't offer speeches, didn't ask for apologies. I looked Zach dead in the eye. "I'm not asking you to call me Dad. I never was. But I do expect the same respect you'd give any adult who shows up, pays your bills, and gives a damn when no one else does." Zach nodded. Just once. Not defiant. Not fake. Just real. Ryan's voice was softer. "We get it. Too late, but we get it." I looked at Lauren. She looked away. They went upstairs. The air felt thinner after they passed. Later that evening, I walked into the garage. The Wi-Fi router sat on the shelf, blinking. I changed the password back. Restarted the Netflix subscription. Re-enabled their PlayStation accounts. Not as a reward. Not out of guilt. But because boundaries had been set. And this time they would hold. That night, Ava came to me while I was doing dishes. "You think they'll change?" she asked. I dried my hands. Looked at her. "I think they've been forced to see the line. Whether they stay on the right side of it, that's on them." She nodded like an adult. Like she understood more than she should. That week, something shifted. Zach offered to pay for part of his next field trip using money from his job at the auto shop. Ryan started helping Ava with her math homework without being asked. Lauren. She began making dinner again. First time in months. One night as we sat around the table. The four of us, no distractions. She looked at me across the plates and said softly, "I should have said something sooner. I let too much slide." I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. Her silence had already said it all. The family wasn't healed. It wasn't whole. But for the first time, it wasn't dishonest. Because now they understood something I had always known but never said aloud. Kindness without boundaries becomes weakness. And weakness, when it's fed, becomes resentment. They had taken from me because they could. Because I let them. But now they had to earn what they once assumed was free. Respect, effort, presence. They were no longer passengers in a house powered by my labor and haunted by their father's ghost. They were contributors. Or they weren't here. I walked upstairs that night, past the boys' rooms. Doors open now, not slammed shut, and paused outside Ava's. She was asleep, curled up like she used to when she was little. Her bedroom was warm, quiet, safe. And for once, I believed it might stay that way. Down the hall, I heard Zach typing, Ryan humming softly to himself. No yelling, no tension, just breathing. I stood there for a while, listening. And then I whispered, maybe to myself, maybe to no one, let's see who you choose to become now that the bill's been paid. It's quiet now. Not the kind of quiet that feels tense or unfinished. The kind that comes after a long storm. Windows still wet, furniture a little out of place. But the worst has passed. The wreckage has been cleared. What's left behind is real. For the first time in years, the house feels like it belongs to me. Not legally, not on paper, but in presence. There's no more tiptoeing. No more walking around invisible borders. No more guessing whether I'm allowed to speak. I don't ask for permission anymore. Zach comes home from work with grease on his hands, drops his keys in the bowl by the door, and nods at me. It's not love, not warmth, but it's something, recognition, respect, maybe. He offered, without prompting, to pay part of his senior trip. Said he didn't expect me to foot the bill. Said, "You've done enough already." I didn't respond, just nodded. That was all it needed. Ryan, for his part, doesn't speak much. But he helps Ava with her science projects. Walks the dog. Offers to run to the store when something's missing from the fridge. Small gestures. Quiet ones. But deliberate. One night he was washing dishes. Sleeves rolled up. Music playing low on his phone. And he said, without looking up, "I was a dick." I didn't correct him. Didn't comfort him. Just said, "I know." And we moved on. That's how men repair things. With motion, not confession. Lauren's changed too. She doesn't say sorry much, maybe once, maybe twice, but her behavior shifted. She speaks up when Zach gets sharp. She tells Ryan to say thank you when I do something for them. She doesn't brush it off anymore. Doesn't play referee in silence. One night, she sat beside me on the porch. The air was cold, but not punishing. "I kept waiting for it to fix itself," she said. I sipped my beer. Said nothing. She exhaled. "I thought if we just waited long enough, they'd grow up and start acting better. I thought time would handle it. But I see now. Time doesn't fix things you refuse to confront." Still, I didn't speak. She didn't need me to. The truth was loud enough without my voice. That's what this house had been missing all along, truth. Everyone here was performing. Zach performed strength. Ryan performed indifference. Lauren performed patience. I performed peace. But Ava, she never performed. She just endured. She watched it all. From the corner of the room. From the back seat. From the hallway outside our fights. And now she smiles more. Laughs harder. Talks louder. Like the air doesn't suffocate her anymore. She doesn't fear the boys now. Doesn't flinch when they argue. She knows I'll speak up. That I won't disappear again into tolerance. She knows what lines look like. And she knows what happens when they're crossed. That's the gift I gave her. More than rent, more than meals. A father who chose backbone over silence. And maybe that's the real legacy. Not the money. Not the house. Not the shared last names. But the boundaries. Because boundaries, they're not cruelty. They're the blueprint of love. They say, here's what I will carry. Here's what I won't. They say, this is the cost of access. This is the price of family. Because love, real love, is not unconditional. Not in a household. Not when your back is breaking under the weight of it. If you give without pause, they forget what it costs. If you stay silent, they believe your pain is fictional. If you keep giving after they spit in your face, they don't respect you more. They just wipe their feet on you harder. I've learned that now. And I've learned something else, too. The people who scream the loudest about what you owe them are often the ones who never paid anything into you. Zach and Ryan used to say, "You're not our dad." Now they say thanks when I drop them off somewhere. They say got it when I ask for help. No one's calling me dad. And that's fine. Because I've stopped trying to be someone I'm not. I'm not their father. I'm the man who showed up. I'm the man who paid. I'm the man who stayed when their real dad didn't answer the door. That should have been enough. For years it wasn't. Now, it is. Because I'm not asking them to love me. I'm asking them to understand me. To recognize that every inch of this roof, every hot meal, every quiet rescue, came at a cost. And that cost was me. My peace. My money. My time. And I finally made them pay their part. With humility. With respect. With a little fear, maybe. And that's okay. Fear has its place in a house. Not terror. Not domination. But a healthy fear. The kind that says, there are consequences here. Because for too long, this was a house without consequence. A home where disrespect was free and unconditional love meant silence in return for scorn. Not anymore. Ava asked me recently, "Do you think they'll ever really appreciate you?" I smiled. "That's not the point," I said. "The point is I appreciate me. I look in the mirror now and I don't see a man begging to be seen. I see a man who stopped begging. That's the shift. I stopped begging. Stopped pleading for scraps of respect from teenagers who didn't understand what I gave them. Stopped waiting for Lauren to validate my position. Stopped trying to buy their love with trips and subscriptions and fatherly patience. And I started living like someone who mattered. That's when everything changed. Zach still mutters sometimes. Ryan still sulks. But they sulk within limits now. They know the line. They've seen what happens when it's crossed. And they know this time I won't come running. Because I've run far enough for people who would never run for me. So I ask you, the stranger reading this, was I wrong? Was it cruel to let them feel the emptiness they used to leave me in? Was it harsh to finally say no after years of yes? Or was this the only path left to dignity? Would you have kept paying? Kept feeding? Kept showing up? Just to be mocked? Would you have stayed when your love was returned with contempt? Would you have endured it? Or would you have done what I did? Draw the line, cut the cord, and wait. Wait to see if they come back on different terms. Because that's the lesson, isn't it? Love is not a free subscription. And family, real family, doesn't run on guilt. It runs on respect.